we've been talking about, I just kind of went on a little spiel about them. Houston's weapons. They got a lot of great players on that offense. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, even Dalton Schultz is there. I mean, Joe Mixon is obviously going to be out. But yeah, they got a lot of weapons. So with all those weapons, does it kind of alludes to the last question, but does that make you less confident in these guys to step up, like Cam Lewis, like Dwayne Carter? Does this make you less confident in Cole Bishop to step up against a team that has very good weapons? And what matchup do you think is going to be that pivotal matchup that the Bills have to say, hey, if we want to win this game, we have to at least meet them halfway in this matchup, and we cannot lose this matchup consistently on Sunday. So we'll start with you, Lance. What matchup's the most important to you, and does it make you less confident seeing who Houston has for guys to step up on the Bills side?
Yeah, it's going to be, the back four, maybe the safety matchups. For me, I think you have to get off the field on third down, and on third down, if the defense puts them in those third and medium to third and long situations, you're going to be relying on the secondary at that point. And yes, the pass rush does help on third down as well, but I think that the overall thing that I saw against Baltimore that led to our downfall was Lamar, before the pass rush could even get there, Lamar was able to get the ball out of his hands and find a pretty much wide open receiver on multiple third downs in seven or longer. So we got to be able to cover, and it's the back seven really that's on the block here to cover people and make it so that CJ Stroud has to hold this ball enough to where our pressure can get there, or we're going to have to start bringing some pressure and generating some quick pressure that will throw him off. But I think it's really the coverage on the back end that really, with these weapons, has to show up this week, and it's going to be a very difficult matchup for most of these guys. Benford and Douglas have been great, and they can continue to be great, but everybody else then has to do their job and make sure that these guys are covered enough to where either our rush can get home or they can make a play on the ball and get this team off of the field on third downs.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The Texans' offensive line is definitely not the strength of their offense. So even though our defensive line is pretty banged up, they should still be able to do some stuff. But yeah, I'm really worried about like the Cam Lewis on Diggs matchup. I just think Diggs is too good of a receiver, and CJ Stroud is too good of a quarterback for them to not take advantage of it. On the outside, our corners are the same as they've been. Like you said, they've been great, and like Nico Collins is just going to kind of get his because he's that level of a receiver. But yeah, I'm really worried about Diggs in the middle of the field, and like who do you really have that can guard him there? Because no one, at least on paper, is the same level or even close. So yeah, definitely worry about the back end, specifically, like the nickel corner, Cam Lewis, and then the linebackers. Even if Bernard plays, like they still have their hands full. So yeah, very similar feelings to Lance.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something when you look at the other side, it does make you a little bit less confident. Even this past week against Baltimore, even though they're not an elite passing team, you just knew that going in, hey, these guys are better than the Cardinals. They're better than the Dolphins offense. I mean, obviously the Dolphins offense is very good, but without Tua, I know the Bills were already up a lot before Tua got hurt. But yeah, this team is different. This Houston team is also different in the terms that I don't know if the Bills have played a passing offense this year that has reached even close to this level of success as Houston's. You've seen Kyler Murray have big games, but even so, like there's still an offense that's kind of had their up and downs. Houston, they take care of the ball. I think the matchup that I'm going to be worried about the most is one that Lance kind of alluded to as well, is the safeties versus even just CJ Stroud. Is CJ Stroud going to be able to look them off? Is CJ Stroud going to be able to deceive them more than they can allow themselves to be deceived? So it's going to be all about discipline. It's going to be about being able to maybe even disguise coverages a little bit better this week, but having a young guy like Cole Bishop there who is still coming into his own in the passing game, especially, it's going to be a challenge for him. And then DeMar Hamlin, who has really been just a whirlwind in the passing game. It's been a guy who, yeah, he had an interception against the Jaguars, but that throw, I mean, he was wide open. It should have been a 20-30 yard gain, but it was an overthrow and he ends up making the play. So those two are going to be the guys that really concern me. And that matchup of those two, not allowing big plays to Nico Collins downfield, making tackles when you need to, and just making plays when you need to. You can't let opportunities slip this game. If you have an opportunity to make a play on the ball, you got to make it this week. If you have an opportunity to make a tackle, you got to make the tackle this week. You can't have missed opportunities against a team like Houston and give them second, third chances, allowing teams like Lance said, where it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 12, and you're allowing a guy to come wide open. You can't have that happen this week. You saw what happened last week when you let it happen. This week you can't let it happen. So
That's
that's
predicated on communication too, I think, and that's the biggest part that you miss with these safeties is that communication factor. Isn't That's one of the things we talked about early on, I think, in the season when we talked about missing Poyer and Hyde as much, is like, how are these safeties going to communicate now and get these guys in the secondary properly aligned and properly reading what they're about to see? And it seems like they had done a decent enough job of that up until last week. Last week, they were not ready. They weren't in position. I don't know that necessarily there was a breakdown in communication necessarily, but that starts with the safety group. In this defense, it had started previously with the safety group. And I know Terrell Bernard had been a big part in helping that out and now isn't there as well. But still, that safety group, somebody's got to find a voice back there and be able to really understand or help everyone understand what they're seeing and help them trust it more, because that's really what happened to the Bills against Baltimore. Is not a lot of people were trusting what they were seeing. We had a couple of guys, but even a guy like Rasul Douglas, Scott and I talked on that big run by Derrick Henry, didn't, he had his outside contained, but it didn't really matter. Derrick Henry just, we needed to really to fit into a run hole and a run lane, and he didn't do that. And for whatever reason, these guys got to be able to get their running mates in position here, and that really starts. It's best for the safety in this defense to be able to do that, and I'm just not sure. That's one of the biggest reasons why I think that Taylor Rapp injury may be a little bit more significant, because that communication has to be there, and if it's not, you're going to see this defense struggle at times. And maybe the Jaguars or the Dolphins game, man, like Tua was there for most of the game, and they just played their best game. They were well prepared, and you can put that on McDermott. But then again, maybe you can put a little bit on McDermott against Baltimore too, as to why maybe some of these mishaps happened and why people may have been out of position at times. But it seemed to me more of an execution thing, which we don't need to get into any sort of recap, but you have to also execute and try to shed these blocks. The safeties got sucked into too many blocks last week, and they have to make sure they're trying to avoid them. Cole Bishop did show when he came in a little bit of propensity to be slithery, so to speak, and be able to get through some of these gaps and get off some blocks. I want to see more of that this week as he gets a little more comfortable. But overall, you can't just be running into guys, running into blocks. You got to go through them, go around them, get off of them, and make a play on the ball carrier rather than trying to just engage with a guy.
Yeah, more physicality, absolutely.
I wonder, and this is a topic maybe for next week, depending on how this week goes, there's been some talk about, Micah Hyde coming back. I wonder if they even just bring Micah Hyde in for a reason like that, to help with communication and help teach guys like Cole Bishop and these young guys, new guys in this defense, to kind of what they used and what him and Poyer used, and see if that helps a little bit. But obviously that's a topic for a different time. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, though. Hopefully Cole Bishop can have a great game. Hopefully Mar Hamlin can have a great game and just step up in general.